All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about centering. So there's two types of centering. You can center something horizontally or vertically. We'll look at horizontally first. And let me just time myself on this. Okay. So it depends on what kind of elements you're centering here. Specifically, are we centering a bunch of inline elements or block level elements? We'll take a look at both. So for inline elements, it's pretty simple. You can just use the text align center property. And this will center any kind of inline element ranging from span, text, hyperlinks, and other things, as long as they're inline. Let's take a look at an example here. So let's, we'll do it in JS Fiddle. So let's delete all this stuff. And this, whoops. Okay. So what are some examples of inline elements? We could do span, raw. We could do a tag, hyperlink, foo. And let's go ahead and we could also just do normal text. Oh, and let's put this all inside of a container div. Tidy it up. So now what we can do is we can give the div, and so we're going to say we want to center everything, inside of this div. So we can give the div a text align property of center, and everything's centered. So that's interesting, and I want you to see the actual borders of these elements. So I'm just going to give it give everything a border of 1 pixel. We have to do solid. There you go. Well, that's too much. I don't want to give everything like that. But yeah, let me erase that. So let's just do span. Give it a border of 1 pixel, solid, and let's give our a span and comma a. Okay, so you see that the actual elements itself have been centered. Now that's let's contrast this to, say, a block level element. Let's put another block level element in here. Let's put a div and put an ID equals center me, and we'll say hurrah. All right. So notice how it kind of looks like the div was centered, but actually it wasn't. Only the text inside it was centered. So if I do, let's put a border around the div to illustrate this. The div itself is, well, I guess, yeah, well, technically the div is, since it takes the entire width of the page, it's centered. Let's give it a different width. Div width 200 pixels, and not all divs, just center me. Center me, and let's change that to center me to be more specific. And we'll give this one a background color of So there you go. So now you see that the div itself is not centered. It's still to the left. And here, let's just to illustrate this. I'll give the containing div background color 2. Container background color yellow. Okay, so you see, obviously, this center me div is not centered. But interestingly, the text inside that div is centered with respect to the containing div. But that's not quite what we want. We want the entire div itself to be centered. And that's where we're going to talk about, well, how do we center a block level element? For that, we're going to use it's a CSS trick, but which involves setting the margins of the element to be auto. So we're going to do margin left auto, margin right auto. And now the whole div is centered. Shorthand for this is just to do margin 0 if you want top and bottom to be 0, and then left and right is going to be auto. Same thing. So that's how you center block level elements horizontally. And yeah, and let's look at an example. We'll dissect in a website here. So let's look at the New York Times. All right, and you see here, there's some centering going on here where this entire section here, inside like the white gutters on the left and right, this is centered on the page. And this is a common theme. You'll probably want to do it yourself on your website. So let's see how they do that. And basically, we're going to look at whatever is the largest container of all this stuff. Body div. I got lost. Let's inspect nav shell. It's probably shell. So notice what they do. They give it a width, like we did. Where was it? Here. Our center me has a width. Because remember, if it doesn't have a width, it just takes up the entire width of the page. And they do margin 0 auto, which centers the entire shell, which kind of basically contains the body of their website. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you center things horizontally. And I'll quickly talk about centering things vertically. So typically with vertical centering, you can get by with just using padding. So you can kind of add an equal amount of padding on the top and bottom of an element to make it look like it's vertically centered. So, all right, let's do an example. So let's delete this stuff. Or delete everything except center me. And just delete all that. So still has a container, a background of yellow. We'll give this a height so we can have something to center it with respect to. Okay, so now, hurrah, how would we center this guy vertically? You could just give it some padding here. So let's say center me, give it a padding top of 50 pixels. Let's see what that does. Oh, well, it's too much. Too much. Let's say 40 pixels. A little bit better. And you can kind of toy around with this to get to where you want. But the idea is you can just manipulate the padding of it to make it look centered. And that's all for centering. You can look at this guide here for a resource. It is csstricks.com centering.